Okay, so here's an example of a general warm-up that I might do with an older couple. This is Terry and Jane. He's 80 and she is 75. She'll be 81. Yeah, she'll be 76 this year. They're doing a fantastic job. Been clients of mine for 15, 16 years now. So these are just some general things we might do to get going. Then we usually will have a med ball portion to the warm up. I like to just do lots of different direction changes and just get people moving in ways that they don't typically move throughout the day. And the medicine ball for me, I really like these bigger ones rather compared to like a smaller one. I'm fond of these ones by rep. These are the ones I've had so many medicine balls over the years, so I've got some rep fitness ones. And then I'm really a big believer in trying to get people to catch and throw if possible for hand-eye coordination. And these are things that a lot of people stop doing as they get older. So I really like throwing in some sort of moderate hand-eye coordination. Med ball, here they are doing a rotational toss. And sometimes we'll do these off the knees or half kneeling position. There's just a lot of ways we can vary these, but most usually we're doing them in a standing position. And then some throws are always kind of fun. I think it's fun to throw things on the ground and kind of slam things, so I like to throw these in. And these to me are, getting a little bit of athletic movement in that people don't do. Here's a chopping pattern. And I like these actually as warm-ups. We might do these, later on as well for some people. Then we like to get on the ground. I like to do some kind of a ground-based warm-up for most of my middle-aged and older clients because the ground becomes a pretty scary place for people as they get older. And often they get to the point where they can't get off the ground. So that's not going to be a problem for Terry and Jane. Again, we've been doing this for like 15 to 16 years in some variations, so they haven't lost any of their abilities, and in some of them they've actually continued to improve. I really like the NT Loop by Nick Tuminello. Just really, really fun tool I've added in the last 5-6 years, so I like those. Here you can see we're doing a little neck work, some lateral flexion. There were some flexions done before, then we usually throw in some kind of lateral trunk work and hip abductor work, just kind of facilitating, kind of like a little rotisserie. We kind of go around the body. Here's just some basic kind of easy yoga stuff, some cat-cows and some rocking and stuff, and all kinds of sort of thoracic extension rotation, maybe some flexion rotation. Just kind of depends. A lot of my clients will just do some sort of variations of these, kind of depending on their specific needs. I do have some people that might do versions of this, from a bench or maybe like my massage table or something. But if people can get on the ground, even if they've had artificial knees, eventually you should be able to get some pressure on those kneecaps. I definitely like to do it. Here's just some basic crawling, just for some coordination. We do it just sort of what you might call like a baby crawl. And then I'll usually have them do just a couple of rounds up in sort of a kind of a cat crawl, not quite a bear crawl, just to make it a little bit harder. And then for some people, I like to throw in some lateral kind of walking. They like to do that little bump over there. It's kind of cute. And then, maybe a couple modified push-ups, whatever they can do. Terry's he can keep a really clean form when he does his push-ups. Jane is doing a really good job as well. And then trying to get into some sort of a squat. I mean, this is something that people start losing maybe in their 30s and 40s here in Western culture if you're not used to squatting. And they've been doing it for quite some time now. So I just want them to be able to keep maintaining this ability to squat. This is kind of like a little crab thing, and then going to turn over and they would do it again. And that would kind of round out kind of our floor-based kind of mobility, a little bit of stability, some core stuff, a little neck strengthening. And then we're getting ready more for the weights. I'll give them a kettlebell and we'll do some around the bodies and some sort of halos over the head, coming up here. And this just kind of bridges the gap from kind of the stuff on the floor to, okay, we're back up again. Let's get ready to lift some iron. And so usually they'll do some of these. We'll do some sort of a goblet squat, maybe some sort of a kind of a modified sort of triangle pose, kind of side press kind of a thing with the kettlebell as well, just to add some variety into their movement patterns, just things again that people aren't typically doing. So there's an example right there. And I learned this from the kind of the kettlebell community, RKC community back in the day. Of course, now there's the Strong First, which is still teaching some other stuff. And then we usually throw in some kind of a swing to really get the hips ready. This is an offset swing where they're just kind of focusing on one hip and then the other. We do many variations of swings. They've been doing this for years. And then because they've been doing get-ups for 15, 16 years, we usually just do one. Terry's using a 12 kilo. So I don't know how many 80-year-olds that you know that can do a 12 kilo get-up. He usually uses a 10 and 12, and Jane usually uses between a 6 and 9 pound dumbbell and or kettlebell. And it's just hard to do, so we just keep it in, and then we get into some sort of a hop, jump. This is sort of a hop and stick. We might do box jumps. Just kind of depends on the day. They're going to do like a deadlift variation today, so we're doing a little more of a horizontal. On a day when they do squats, they might do a box jump or just a vertical jump, a little side to side. So we just like to give them some exposure in many different directions here, and it's kind of fun. And then I like to throw in some sort of a rotational aspect because the vestibular system gets a little more challenged as we get older. Terry's got some vestibular hypofunction, which a lot of people will get as they get older. So I always like to throw in some of this stuff just as sort of a contingency plan to keep people able to handle that aspect of movement. And then our main course of the day was going to be a kettlebell deadlift, a sumo deadlift, just slightly elevated to keep it a little less quads. And I like the anti-loop coming from behind, so we get that sort of second vector to emphasize the hip extension at the end. And then today they were doing a one arm, sort of 1 1/3 press, where they come up, kind of down, right, and then up would be one rep. And we're just kind of focusing on sort of a stretched position. Not everybody can press overhead as they get older, but they've been doing it, and they're still able to do it. Even though Jane had a frozen shoulder before with this left one, she's able to get overhead pretty nicely. So we want to maintain that. Second kind of a paired set was a NT loop split squat. So now we got the NT loop from the front. So we're emphasizing a little more quads on this one. We're still getting, hamstrings and glutes and all that, but we really want to make sure that we're getting the quads as well. And then here is a suspension system. This is a jungle gym row with a mini NT loop, so we can get a little more scapular retraction. And I like to throw in 1 or 2 sets of some isolation work. So here's a stretch position, overhead triceps with a rope. I really like this one, really good for mobility, but just gets those triceps pretty well. You got to stabilize with your body and your trunk as well. Jane's just doing a nice easy bar curl. Terry's using the barbell there. Sometimes we'll just do one set. Today we just did a little less volume because they had trained 2 days earlier. We typically train Mondays and Thursdays, so that's a pretty nice split for rest. This was a Wednesday, and we had trained on Monday, so we had the volume down a little bit less, the intensity down a little bit less today. They often will do barbell training and, trap our deadlifts and things like that as well. Here's just a nice finisher for some of the smaller muscle groups. So Jane's doing a ball rollout. We do many variations of sort of these plank anti-extension movements. They're both very good at this one, so this was sort of a easy day for them for abs, but we still want to keep it in there. And then Terry's doing a external rotation, elbow on knee. There's Jane doing it just to make sure we keep some, kind of like an insurance policy, just to keep that posterior cuff. You got the infra, the teres minor, and then you probably get a little supra spinatus contraction as well. And so we always throw in some kind of scap work or some isolated cuff work for 1 to 2 sets, because you're getting a lot of that anyway if you just do good training. If you're pressed for time, sometimes we might not do some of these things. But if I have the time, I like to throw it in. And then we got conditioning. So today we're doing some easy jumps, kind of some extensive plyos. I try to get all my older clients to jump if possible. And then we're doing some ropes. So it's sort of like a 10 to 12 second on, and then a 48 to 50 second rope recovery. And we usually do about 3 rounds of each. So it's sort of 6 rounds of that sort of alactic kind of 10 second on, 50 second. And she's just jumping, we jump in various patterns. I kind of let them choose. And we got a lot of different patterns of the ropes as well. And it's just been so much fun to keep them going. And we're going to keep them going. And this is the kind of stuff that's possible if you do the right stuff. So hope you guys enjoyed that. And you can still have guns and you can still really keep going despite being 80.